Board of Zoning Adjustment. I now call this meeting in order for the Walker Township Board of Zoning Adjustment. Today is September 12th. It is approximately 6:05 p.m. Roll call. To my left, I have Mr. Gary Bowler. To his right, I have Mr. Dale Cole. And to his right, I have Bill Clare. We are absent one member tonight. That is Mrs. Angie Westouzy. We should be fine. We only have to have 3 out of the 5 present to hear this case tonight. So we're going to continue on. Meeting's open to the public according to the rules and procedures that we've adopted already by the BCA. Minutes will be taken and filed as public record. We're going to hear 2 separate related appeals submitted by Beavertail Ranger LLC and Beavertail 2 LLC concerning the denial of the building permit by the Walker Township Code Enforcement Officer on June 26th of 2024. If needed, I may ask the applicant or the Code Enforcement Officer to respond to any points raised during this presentation. Because we have 2 separate appeals, we receive information on them individually and make individual decisions on each. Also, before we begin, I would like, with respect to the making sure we have witnesses sworn in and they can talk. We don't want this to turn into a free-for-all. It would be easier that the court reporter hears your name before you make comments. To begin, I'm going to invite the applicant's representative, Mr. Mark Brady, over here today, to present the appeal of Beavertail Solar LLC. Mr. Brady, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Mark Brady. I'm the attorney with the Fulton Law Firm, and I'm here on behalf of Beavertail Projects, Beavertail Project, Beavertail, we'll call Beavertail 1 and Beavertail 2. And thank you for the introduction. You kind of covered some of the housekeeping issues that I was going to address, but I may repeat a couple things to make sure that we're all in agreement on how the hearing is going to proceed, because as you noted, there are 2 separate appeals. There were 2 separate building permit applications filed, and then 2 separate denials, and then there are 2 separate appeals. So we want the cases to be handled separately. So we will first present on the Beavertail 1 project, what we'll call Beavertail 1. We'll have that hearing. We'll make a number of, we'll make a presentation. We're going to submit some documents for the record. And then we'll close that hearing and then proceed sequentially with the Beavertail 2 hearing. Because there is a lot of overlap between the two applications, some common presentation materials that we're going to be making, I'll make all of that information part of the record in my presentation for Beavertail 1. So when we close that and then move over to the Beavertail 2 project, I will, for efficiency's sake, and so I'm not saying the same thing over and over and over again that you already heard, I will highlight a couple of things that for Beavertail 2, but then we'll just go into the things that are different about that building permit application and that appeal that were not part of the Beavertail 1 presentation. But we would also note that we want everything that was presented as part of the Beavertail 1 project to be included in the record and in the transcript for the Beavertail 2 appeal, but we're just not going to regurgitate it twice for purposes of efficiency, and we'll hopefully get out here and use now. Is that acceptable to the board?
Yes, very acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I do first want to submit a couple of documents for the record. We have a notebook. We'll have 1 notebook for the Beavertail 1 project, and then 1 notebook with some different materials as part of the Beavertail 2 appeal. And I think one has already been provided to the court reporter. This is one. So I'll provide one to Mr. Westerstein here, and then I'll provide one for each member of the board. Oh, yeah.
Yes, we're absent.
Okay. So. I think you hear me okay? This recording?
Everybody in the back, everybody here fine. We've got microphones we can use. If anybody can't hear, please just speak up.
We can hear you, it'd be better if we could hear him better.
Hang on.
We will
We
definitely
are
move
picking you
microphones.
guys up really good, so why don't you set like a chair here and maybe put the mic between them? See how that works?
Test. You hear better? Is it picking me up okay?
No. Just set it on their table.
We can very easily move it from table to table as needed. Is that?
Better?
That's okay.
Yeah.
All right. Great, thank you. Before getting into the formal presentation, I do want to identify the various documents that are included in the notebooks that I just distributed to the board. I'll just kind of highlight what's in there. One is the actual appeal, the formal written appeal that we filed for the Beaver Tail 1 project. The second one is the Board of Zoning Adjustment rules of procedure that dictate how its public hearings are to progress in the course of an appeal of the building permit denial. The third exhibit is just a summary of the project itself. The fourth is a map of the project site. The fifth item is a summary of development activities that have occurred in furtherance of the Beaver Tail 1 project. Item 6 are memos of the various lease agreements for the project. Item 7 is the actual building permit application that we submitted for the Beaver Tail 1 project. Item 8 is various correspondence, email correspondence between project representatives and the township's zoning staff. Item 9 is the 1995 zoning ordinance for the township. Item 10 is the 2024 zoning ordinance that was recently adopted by the township. Item 11 is again various email correspondence regarding the status of zoning within Walker Township. Item 12 is correspondence regarding the fact that there was no zoning map prior to 2024 associated with Walker Township. Item 13 is a response to the sunshine request that was made that include various minutes and other activities of the township board related to over the last several months. Item 14 is a list of existing other commercial projects within Henry County. And item 15 is a statement from Mr. Knoll, who served on the township board for the better part of 30 years, including the time when the 1995 zoning ordinance was considered by the township. And that declaration also notes that Mr. Knoll was also appointed a member of the Township Planning and Zoning Commission back in 1995, and that after 1996, that zoning commission did not meet again until 2024, and that the township didn't approve a zoning map until 2024, that the township did not appoint a board of zoning adjustment, the board that we're here in front of tonight, until 2024, and that the zoning map was only approved in 2024, and that prior to 2024, no application for building permits, special use permits, rezonings, or other zoning approvals or development permits were considered for approval by the township or its boards, despite the fact that development activity has actually occurred during that period. So that's kind of just a summary of the various items for the proceedings, together with the verbal testimony that we will be going into right now. Is that acceptable with Mr. Chairman?
Fine with that.
Thank you. So I'm going to give first a little background on zoning and how it functions in the state of Missouri. So zoning limits and restricts the manner in which residents can use property they own. The Missouri statutes include a very detailed process and strict requirements in order for a township to adopt them so that private property rights are protected. Those steps include Missouri law requires, among other things, the creation and appointment of a planning and zoning commission, a board of zoning adjustment, and the appointment of zoning enforcement official. Those requirements are spelled out in Chapter 65 of the Missouri statutes. Those requirements. Missouri law also requires a township to have in place a zoning plan or map that identifies the various zoning districts as one of the requirements of having a legal, valid, and effective ordinance. And that's statutory section 65.680 through 65.682 of the Missouri statutes. Walker Township attempted to adopt the zoning ordinance in 1995, as further amended in 1996, and we'll just call it the 1995 ordinance so that we don't get confused, jumping back and forth between a few dates. But there is no evidence that the township ever met the Missouri statutory requirements to adopt zoning, and never had a zoning map in place, nor did they appoint a zoning enforcement official, nor appointed a board of zoning adjustment, or maintained a planning and zoning commission prior to May of 2024. The township's failure to follow the statutory requirements to adopt zoning resulted in an invalid zoning ordinance. Because the zoning ordinance was invalid, the township remained unzoned, and developers are not required to comply with the requirements of the zoning ordinance. Ranger Power, the Beaver One developer, told the township about the flaws of the 1995 ordinance that made the ordinance invalid. Despite the township not having zoning in place, Beavertail One developers nevertheless attempted to work with the township by volunteering to agree to certain development standards for the Beavertail One project, such as voluntary setbacks, screening, sound limits, decommissioning, road maintenance requirements, lighting restrictions, and emergency management protocols. These voluntary development standards would go above and beyond any township requirements, be generally consistent with other solar projects Ranger has developed, and could even include other benefits for Walker Township. Walker Township declined to agree to development standards and embarked on a process to change the rules after Beavertail One had worked for years in the community and spent millions of dollars in bringing the Beavertail One project to construction. With that, I'm going to briefly ask Pete Andres to describe the Beavertail One project and the development activities that have been performed to date. Pete?
Thank you, Mark, and good evening, board members. My name is Peter Andres. I am a vice president of development with Ranger Power. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the history of the project and what we've done to date. Beavertail One is a 400 megawatt AC solar energy. Can't hear it. Okay, is this any better? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Beavertail, we start over. Beavertail One is a 400 megawatt AC solar energy generating facility located in Henry County, Missouri. The project has been under development since 2017 and began physical construction work in 2024. When built, the project will consist of solar photovoltaic modules, racking, steel piles, inverters, electrical transmission cables, fencing, gravel access roads, project and utility substations, an operations and maintenance building, and associated equipment required to deliver electricity to the utility grid. Construction will continue into 2027, and the project is expected to be operational in 2027. It will operate for up to 40 years pursuant to lease agreements and other contracts that are in place. The project is expected to be an approximately $650 million investment in clean energy and will deliver significant economic benefits to landowners, Henry County taxpayers, and the state of Missouri. Ranger Power has been developing Beavertail 1 since 2017. Ranger has invested over $9 million to advance Beavertail 1, including but not limited to environmental, land, and other surveys, engineering and design, consultations with state and federal agencies, land agreements, and purchase of land. Physical development activity in Davis Township includes substantial on-the-ground activities, including construction of an operations and maintenance building and a gravel laydown yard, and construction of the pad for the Beavertail 1 substation, and other construction work. Physical construction work is ongoing. Contractors are engaged for additional construction activities which are expected to begin in the coming weeks. Beavertail 1 has entered into leases or other real estate contracts with multiple landowners totaling approximately 6,461 acres, 1,611 of which are located in Walker Township and the remaining in Davis Township. We've been a good active partner with these participating property owners, all of whom have chosen to work with us voluntarily while exercising their own property rights. Our landowners who reside in and/or own property in Walker Township have strong interests in Beavertail 1 alongside Ranger. Ranger has also committed to a wide range of contracts, including to interconnect to the utility grid and sell power from the solar projects. We have already posted over $50 million as security with contractual counterparties associated with Beavertail 1. Over the years, the county and township have welcomed the substantial investment, jobs, payments to taxing jurisdictions, and other benefits that the Beavertail 1 will produce. The county has authorized the preparation of Chapter 100 for Beavertail 1 to ensure that financial resources will inure to the benefit of local taxing jurisdictions. The county has executed a road use agreement to ensure roads will be maintained in as good or better condition than before the development of Beavertail 1. And the county has executed a decommissioning agreement to ensure project assets are removed at no cost to the taxpayers at the end of their useful life. Ranger has moved forward with its development activities in good faith reliance on its authority to complete Beavertail 1. While Beavertail 1 is currently under construction in Davis Township, Beavertail 1 is prosecuting this appeal to preserve its rights in Walker Township and to ensure that Beavertail 1 has access to the land as leased in Walker Township, which Beavertail 1 will use if it determines such land would be beneficial for the project.
Thanks, Pete. I'm going to now walk through the process that we engaged in to apply for the building permit and the denial thereof. Because the township failed to follow the statutory requirements for a valid zoning ordinance in 1995 and thereafter, as I previously discussed, there was no valid zoning ordinance that regulated or prevented the continued development of the Beavertail 1 project, and that development should be allowed to proceed. Despite the lack of a valid zoning ordinance, Ranger Power reviewed the 1995 ordinance, which, even if it had been effective, did not prevent the development of the Beavertail 1 project. Section 4 of the 1995 ordinance addresses the residential district and only requires a building permit for mobile home parks and does not limit or restrict other uses or require building permits for other uses. Section 5 of the 1995 ordinance addresses the agricultural district and only places restrictions on certain confined animal operations, and does not limit or restrict other uses or require building permits for other uses. Section 6 of the ordinance addresses the commercial district, and that is the only zoning district that requires a building permit. But it does not otherwise limit or restrict the development of a solar energy project. The commercial district, therefore, was the only zoning district that would even require a building permit for the Beavertail 1 project, which is a non-discretionary permit that the township must approve if the building permit application meets all of the requirements under the ordinance. Because the township did not have a zoning map, however, as required by Missouri law, Beavertail 1 was unable to determine which zoning district the Beavertail 1 property was located in. So out of a very abundance of caution, even though the 1995 ordinance was not valid, Beavertail Solar submitted a building permit application for the Beavertail 1 project on March 18, 2024, that conformed with all requirements under the 1995 ordinance, just in case any of the Beavertail 1 property was located in a commercial district, which again was the only district that required a building permit. On April 3rd, 2024, after the building permit application was submitted, the Township Code Enforcement Officer confirmed in email correspondence that if any default zoning classification existed, the Beavertail 1 property would default to the agricultural district classification under the 1995 ordinance, which only restricts confined animal operations. Thus, even if the ordinance was valid, which we dispute, Beavertail 1 can proceed without any additional permits from the township because the property is located in the agricultural zoning district. Because the Township Code Enforcement Officer communicated to Beavertail 1 that if the 1995 ordinance was effective, the Beavertail 1 project would default to the agricultural district, and Beavertail 1 submitted a conforming building permit application, even if any part of the Beavertail 1 was located in a commercial district. Beavertail 1 has always been and continues to be permitted to complete development in the township without further permits or approvals from the township. On June 26, 2024, however, the Walker Township Code Enforcement Officer denied Beavertail 1's application for a building permit. Upon the denial of the building permit application, on September 17, 2024, Beavertail 1 filed an appeal of denial of the denial of its application for a building permit by the Walker Township Code Enforcement Officer to this Board of Zoning Adjustment, because the decision to deny the building permit application and to prevent the development of the Beavertail 1 project in the township was erroneous, improper, and illegal. In addition to the foregoing that demonstrates that Beavertail 1 was wrongfully prevented from proceeding with development in the township, Beavertail 1 further states, in support of this appeal, that there was an error of law in the decisions to deny the building permit application and prevent the continued development of the Beavertail 1 project in Walker Township because, 1, the ordinance itself, the 1995 ordinance itself, was illegal, invalid, ineffective, unenforceable, and void because the township failed to adopt, administer, and enforce the ordinance in the manner required by and consistent with Missouri and federal law. 2, the right to continue the development of the Beavertail 1 project in Walker Township has vested. 3, the township is equitably estopped from denying the building permit application and preventing development of the Beavertail 1 project in Walker Township. 4, the township's adoption of a new zoning ordinance dated June 12, 2024 was itself unreasonable and also cannot be the basis to deny the building permit application that is the subject of this appeal and prevent the development of the Beavertail 1 project in Walker Township. 5, the decision to deny the building permit application and prevent the development of the Beavertail 1 project in Walker Township was unreasonable, arbitrary, and capricious in violation of substantive due process as protected by the United States and Missouri constitutions. 6, the decision to deny the building permit application and prevent the development of the Beavertail 1 project in Walker Township violates the equal protection clauses of the United States and Missouri constitutions. And 7, the decision to deny the building permit application and prevent development of Beavertail 1 in the township results in a taking or damaging of property without just compensation in violation of the United States and Missouri constitutions. Mr. Chairman, thank you for allowing us to make this presentation, and members of the board as well. I would like to note that the relief that we are requesting, based on the information and evidence, both written and verbal, that we have presented so far to this board tonight, we request that the Township Board of Zoning Adjustment reverse the decision of the Township Zoning Enforcement Officer and grant the building permit for Beaver Tail 1, or amend the decision of the Township Zoning Enforcement Officer to acknowledge that none of the subject property is located in a commercial zoning district, and therefore recognize that Beaver Tail 1 is not required to submit a building permit application for the development of the Beaver Tail 1 project in Walker Township, and to make such further order or determination as necessary to allow development of the Beaver Tail 1 project to proceed in Walker Township. Thank you very much. We appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Brady. Next, we're going to hear from our code enforcement officer, Mr. Greg Westhuizen. We want to hear his decision to deny the building permit. You got the floor, Greg.
All right, thank you all. Good evening, and appreciate your time. So on August 8th, 1995, the voters of Walker Township voted in favor of the question, shall township planning and zoning be adopted? By a vote of 47 in favor and 18 against. The Township Planning and Zoning Commission recommended a master planning and zoning order, which was adopted by the Township Board on September 29, 1995. The 1995 zoning order was filed with the Henry County Recorder of Deeds Office on October 2, 1995, at Book 603, page 1935. On November 12, 1996, the zoning order was amended. Beaver Tail Solar LLC registered to do business in Missouri on July 6, 2017. Beaver Tail Solar No. 2 LLC registered to do business in Missouri on April 8, 2021. In November 2023, representatives of Beaver Tail Solar LLC communicated to the Township trustee that it had just recently became aware of the 1995 voter approval and later recorded zoning order with the Recorder of Deeds Office. It is not clear why it took Beaver Tail about 6.5 years to do basic due diligence and discover publicly recorded and available facts that the township voters had approved zoning. Neither Beaver Tail nor the township could locate the zoning map referenced in the zoning order, making it challenging to confirm which zoning district any property was in. The township then undertook the process to adopt a zoning map and update the zoning order. In 1995-96, zoning order states that all unincorporated area not within District R1 or C1 on the zoning map are agricultural. It further states that land shall only be used as permitted by the zoning order. Solar farms are not listed as a permitted land use anywhere within the 95-96 zoning order, and therefore, regardless of which zoning district the property is in, industrial scale solar farms were not allowed when the building permit applications were submitted. On June 12, 2024, the Township Board adopted the new zoning order and zoning map. The permitted land uses generally reflect the existing land uses within the township, which are farmland and residential. Beaver Tail participated in the zoning order drafting process and provided numerous comments, some of which were incorporated into the final version. Just like the 95-96 zoning order, industrial scale solar farms are not listed as permitted land use and therefore are not allowed under the 2024 zoning order. At no time beginning in 2017 through June 12, 2024, did Beaver Tail put any property to actual use for its desired solar project. Therefore, it did not obtain any grandfather rights to its projects. Merely filing an application does not give anyone grandfather rights under the law. Actual use of the property is required. And I have a couple case laws I'm going to read to you, which prove that. In Lee versus City of Green Valley, for example, the Lees, they submitted a building permit application to build a structure based on the then current zoning designation. While the application was pending, the city rezoned the property, which restricted the Lee's desired construction. The court noted that under Missouri law, actions such as mere intent to build, submission of a permit, or even reliance on the old zoning do not in themselves establish a vested right. The court ruled that the Lees were not entitled to the permit under the old zoning ordinance. And the other case law is in McDowell versus Lafayette County Commission. The McDowells bought land intending to develop a landfill. They spent over $200,000 on costs like buying the property, creating development plans, leasing equipment, and paying fees to the Missouri Department of Natural Resources. They also applied for a landfill operating permit, which was granted. However, before they could fully start landfill operations, Lafayette County passed new zoning rules that went into effect banning landfill use on their property. The McDowells argued that their financial investments and early efforts gave them the right to continue with the landfill despite the new zoning rules. The court ruled against the McDowells. The court reasoned that to have a grandfathered right to continue a land use after new zoning rules take effect, the use must be actively in place before the zoning change. It's not enough to simply have plans, spend money, or prepare for future use. These actions were considered preparation, not actual use. As a result, they did not meet the legal standard for grandfathered use, and the county's zoning rules prohibited landfills on their property were upheld. The 2024 zoning order contains a process for a property owner or their agent to apply for changes to the zoning order for consideration of additional land uses. Beavertail has not applied for a change. I believe that my decision to deny the building permit was correct because industrial scale solar farms are not permitted under either the 95, 96, or the current zoning order, and Beavertail has no grandfather rights because it has not put any property to actual use as an industrial scale solar farm. Especially after voters overwhelmingly rejected attempts to do away with zoning at the August election, 2 months after the new zoning order and zoning map were adopted. In conclusion, I ask that you vote to uphold my decision to deny the industrial scale solar farm building permit application. And I'll give you, some of this is actually going to be what they have given you as far as the 95 and 96 orders. And then I get the map here as well. But I was going to hand those to you for you guys to look over. And I'll give you a copy of my written statement.
You're going to submit a copy to us to review.
Yes, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Westhuizen. Now, we will go on and move forward to the Beavertail 2 presentation.
Is it, just a pure housekeeping issue, Mr. Chairman. Again, we just want to make sure that, again, as we kind of we want to make sure there's a clear understanding of two separate applications, two separate appeals, two separate hearings. So to the extent that there's any need from a formality perspective, to close the first hearing and then reopen the second hearing, at least make a clear demarcation between that was the presentation for the first hearing, and we're now moving on to the second one, which I think you've stated, but I just want to make sure for the record that that's abundantly clear.
Yes, we're moving on from one,
Okay.
the first one, now let's move on to
Right.
additional information for the second.
Thank you.
My first order of business is to hand out the notebooks for the Beaver Tail 2.
Can I ask for a real quick clarification?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, please do.
On the index, this looks to the business. On the index data.
Yes.
I see no designation between, the one thing I see is the solar two. The tabs all look and read exactly the same.
With a couple of exceptions, for example, tab number 1 for the Beaver Tail 2 project says Beaver Tail Solar 2 appeal to the Board of Zoning Adjustment. Otherwise, I think the contents may be somewhat different. The summary of development activities, the lease memos, they're going to be different. But you're right that the actual contents of the index are largely the same.
Double checking, making sure.
So with that, I don't know that I need to go down the list of the contents like I did in the first one.
We're gonna do the same.
You're going to do the same information, but the contents themselves will have some distinctions because it is a different project, and there was a different building permit application, and there was a different denial and a different appeal.
But for efficiency, we're gonna go through the differences.
Correct. Thank you. And I appreciate that willingness to have this efficiency. And our presentation will follow the same outline, but again, I'm not going to go through I'm not going to go through the background on the 1995 zoning ordinance as we've described it, and the deficiencies that we discovered for compliance with Missouri law, because that same ordinance applied to Beaver Tail 2 as well. I'm not going to go through the various legal standards under Missouri law that were not followed for the 1995 ordinance, but I am going to turn it over now to Pete again to talk through the summary of the Beaver Tail 2 project and the development activities associated with Beaver Tail 2, and then he'll turn it back to me to wrap up.
Thank you, Mark, and good evening again. I just would like to cover the history and development activities on the Beaver Tail 2 solar project because they do differ from the Beaver Tail Solar 1 project. So Beaver Tail 2, as I'll call it, is a development of Ranger Power. The project is a 200 megawatt AC solar energy generating facility located in Henry County, Missouri. The project has been under development since 2021. When built, the project will consist of solar photovoltaic modules, racking, steel piles, inverters, electrical transmission cables, fencing, gravel access roads, project and utility substations, and associated equipment required to deliver electricity to the utility grid. The project is expected to be operational in 2027 or 2028. It will operate for up to 40 years pursuant to lease agreements and other contracts. Beavertail 2 is expected to be an approximately $350 million investment in clean energy and will deliver significant economic benefits to landowners, Henry County taxpayers, and the state of Missouri. Development activities to date. Ranger Power has been developing the Beavertail 2 project since 2021. To advance the project, Ranger Power has invested more than approximately $730,000, which includes, among other things, environmental, land, and other surveys, engineering and design, consultations with state and federal agencies, and entering into land agreements. The project is in advanced stages of development and is expected to be operational in 2027 or 2028. Beavertail 2 has entered into leases or other real estate contracts with multiple landowners covering approximately 2,944 acres, all in Walker Township. Ranger Power has been a good acting partner with these participating property owners, all of whom have chosen to work with us voluntarily while exercising their own property rights. These landowners who reside in and/or own property in Walker Township have strong interest in the Beavertail 2 project alongside Ranger Power. Ranger Power has also signed contracts to interconnect to the utility grid and is actively seeking counterparties to sell power from the project. We have already posted approximately $2 million as security with contractual counterparties associated with Beavertail 2. Over the years, the county and the township have welcomed a substantial investment, jobs, payment to taxing jurisdictions, and other benefits that the project will produce. Ranger has moved forward with its development activities in good faith reliance on its authority to complete the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Pete. So again, I'm going to, as with some of the other sections for the Beavertail 2 application, incorporate our reference and comments that we made for the Beavertail 1 project as it relates to the process we went through to apply for the building permit for Beavertail 2, which included an evaluation of the various sections of the 1995 ordinance and why they either didn't apply to or didn't prevent the development of the Beavertail 2 project, similar to my presentation for Beavertail 1. And then walk through, I'm going to again, the history and when the applications were filed, the time they were denied, and when the appeals were filed to this board. Zoning adjustment, we're the same for Beavertail 2 as for Beavertail 1. They just were handled, again, two separate applications, so I won't regurgitate all that. So, having, I'm also not going to regurgitate the various reasons why the denial of our building permit application for Beavertail 2 violates various provisions of the Missouri and federal United States constitutions or the various provisions of Missouri law or the other theories of legal relief, because all those provisions that I mentioned in detail for the presentation for Beavertail 1 also apply to the denial of the building permit for Beavertail 2. So again, ask those to be incorporated by reference. So again, moving to relief, what we would request from this board of zoning adjustment related to the Beavertail 2 application is we request that the Township Board of Zoning Adjustment reverse the decision of the Township Zoning Enforcement Officer and grant the building permit, or amend the decision of the Township Zoning Enforcement Officer to acknowledge that none of the subject property is located in a commercial zoning district, and therefore recognize that Beavertail 2 is not required to submit the building permit application for development of the Beavertail 2 project in Walker Township, and to make such further order of determination as is necessary to allow development of Beavertail 2 to proceed within the township. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and members of the board.
Thank you, Mark. Any questions for Commissioners or anything else? Mr. West,
So my first statement, it goes hand in hand with the Beavertail 1 Beavertail 2. I incorporate all my presentation from Beavertail 1 into Beavertail 2, and my arguments are the same as it commenced on there. So With that, I just ask that you hold my decision to deny the application, and thank you very much.
To speed up our efficiency and all this, we're gonna treat these as two separate entities. A lot of common ground between both, I understand that. A lot of complexity, we've got a lot of notebooks here that information we haven't necessarily seen. With that, complexity of the case, we're gonna take this matter under advisement. At this time, we are going to ask for any comments, concerns, questions from either party or anybody in the general public.
Do you have to be a member of Walker Township to present a question?
Can you please stand up, come forward?
Robbie Lesmeister, do you have to be a member of Walker Township to present a question or a comment?
This is only concerning Walker Township at this time.
Thank you.
With that, we're gonna take it under, go ahead, Mark.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one, assuming that you're gonna take it under advisement, we would just want to have some sense of a timing and when you think a decision, might be made, or to make sure that we have notice of when that decision might be made. Appreciate that very much. Thank you.
I will give you that point, thank
Okay,
you.
great. Sorry.
With the holidays coming up, we have always tried to have our meetings when we meet. We usually try to have them the first full week of the month on a Thursday night. Pending our availability and a location, that is our intentions. Nothing written in stone at this moment. We are thinking January the 9th, 6 p.m. Location will be determined by what we have available. We have no community building in our township, that's why we're here tonight. We will definitely notify that as soon as we possibly can. Is that acceptable to you, Mark?
Thank you.
Greg, is that acceptable to you? Okay. With that, I'm going to adjourn and conclude this meeting. Thank you all for coming. Thanks for all the input. We will have our decision